this video, I'm going to show you the exact repricing strategies that I use in my 7-figure Amazon business. We're going to be using a repricer called BQool, which is very affordable for pretty much any Amazon business. I'm going to be breaking down some of these specific rule sets and also showing you some very common things to avoid that leads a lot of people to losing money with a repricer. But if you guys are brand new to the channel, my name is Warner Fields from Fields of Profit. I'm a full-time 7-figure Amazon seller, and I'm super excited to get into these strategies with you guys. But if you want even more free resources to learn how to sell on Amazon, give me a link directly beneath me for our completely free Amazon seller Discord community. There's over 45,000 people in there sharing a ton of free information. Would love to see you in there, but let's go ahead and jump into the video. So if you've never seen the back end of BQool before, this is what it's going to look like. This is where you're going to be able to set all of your costs, your min prices, your maximum prices, and then the different rules that you're going to use. And we're going to dive into all that kind of stuff. But real quick, I just want to kind of let you know how much this repricer actually is. So if you guys are a beginner Amazon seller, this $25 a month plan is perfect. If you guys use the link down below, you'll get a free trial as well. So we can kind of hook you up on that. So go ahead and use that link down below. Go ahead and check out a free trial if you want to go ahead and follow along with this video, especially. But yeah, let's just go ahead and jump into it. So when you're looking on these each individual items here, typically it's going to be the best for you to wait for the items to actually check in. So whenever it says quantity 1 here, that's when it's going to kind of be checked in. It'll say active right there, and then you'll be able to, take action and start repricing your products. If you do it before then you might reprice your products before they're actually stocked in, and you don't want to lower prices before you're actually even able to make a sale. It's bad for the whole listing. So make sure you start setting your minimum and maximum price after you've actually seen the item go live at Amazon. And then once you do that, you can just hop in here and say, let's say you're selling this product right here. If you were, wanting to keep it between $143 and $250, that's all you'd go ahead and press in here. And then you can go ahead and select a different rule here. And there's a ton of different stuff you can do with these different rules. And let's go ahead and talk about that. So once you've gone ahead and activated that account, all your stuff is loaded up into BQool. Now you need to start setting different repricing rules, kind of that drop down box where we're selecting different things. This is what's basically going to determine how your prices move. And it's very important that this is set up correctly because you obviously don't want to be making prices drop or raise in places that they should not be. It's going to lead to less profit for your business. So once you go ahead and get set up, go ahead and go to repricing rules, then just add a rule. And so this is the basic rule I want to go ahead and talk about first with you guys. This is going to be if the product has a buy box. So if there's a button on the listing that says add to cart, that's the buy box. Then if you do have the buy box, you're going to want to go ahead and use this custom repricing rule. So let me just go ahead and break it down for you, kind of show you my thought process behind this rule. So the first thing you need to do is talk about competitors. So when we're talking about competitors, you want to make sure you're always competing with the buy box price and not the lowest price. That is one of the early big mistakes that I see a lot of beginners make with repricers. And then from here, it's going to be important to select the right competitors. So usually we're going to be selling FBA products. If you are selling products merchant fulfilled, then you might want to select this as well. Typically, I'm going to leave them out of the rotation on this listing right here. So I'm only going to be worrying about Amazon, FBA, and the non-featured FBA offers. A lot of this stuff doesn't actually matter. If you're doing seller fulfilled Prime, I personally don't. I wouldn't recommend that you guys do seller fulfilled Prime unless you're really on top of things. You can also exclude certain sellers by ID. So if you have one guy on your listing and they're tanking a bunch of products, you can go ahead and throw them in there. If you have any, free shipping, expedited shipping, if you're worried about that at all, I've never really used that personally, but I do use these definitely. So I exclude people with low feedback ratings. A lot of times the buy box is going to favor us with higher feedback. We're more legitimate sellers, so I don't need to worry about chasing their prices. I also typically exclude brand new sellers who have no reviews. So a lot of you, probably that's you watching this video, so prove me wrong, go out there and take some sales from me on something like this. I'm also going to be excluding sellers with back ordered product. And what back order means is basically whenever your items check into an Amazon fulfillment center, a lot of times they're going to be able to go live for sale right then, but they're going to be shipping way slower than kind of the competition who probably has it already checked in at the right fulfillment centers and all that good stuff. So if you're competing with back ordered sellers, that means you're following sellers who have a much longer delivery time than you, and you might be kind of losing some profit, especially based on the fact that you probably can get the product to them faster than a back ordered seller. And the other couple things you might want to think about, less important in this case, because this is only for FBA listings with a buy box. Again, I'll kind of reiterate that. You don't really need to care about handling time, and then item condition. I'm always selling items in new condition. If you're a book seller, something like that, maybe you would want to think about that here, but I'm always selling stuff in new condition myself. So this next thing you're going to want to change, this is a big one. And for whatever reason, a lot of the repricers default to this being -1 penny right here. And so what that's going to do if you leave it like that, it's going to start undercutting the buy box price. So it's going to say, hey, the buy box price is $10. All right, I'm going to find it. And then now my price, I'm going to set it at $9.99. And for whatever reasons, a lot of repricers default to that, even though you don't have to be cheaper than your competition to make sales. A lot of times it's going to be rotating between that same price. And if you're only a cent cheaper, maybe even 50 cents cheaper, the sales are still going to rotate evenly a lot of times. That's just how the buy box works on Amazon. And so even if you are the cheapest by a penny, you're not going to be dominating all the sales. They're going to follow you down. You're going to start lowering prices, and that's where you really get into some trouble. So make sure that your repricer is not set to -1 penny on the buy box. Any experienced seller probably be in the comments talking about that as well. Like, do not set your repricer to -1 penny. If you want to undercut people, undercut them by a lot. There's going to be cases where you do need to undercut people. Go in there and slash it by $1, $2. Cutting it by a penny does absolutely nothing. You don't get more sales, and you just ruin listings on Amazon. So I'll get off my soapbox a little bit there. Just make sure you have this set up properly here. Make sure it matches the buy box. When the winner is below the min price, personally, I'm going to use auto compete on a lot of this, so you can kind of see the explanation for what this is. But basically, if there's a buy box seller with $10 as their sale price, and your minimum price for that item was $11, meaning your price never wants to go below $11, you're just going to be automatically competing within that range. So in this case, that second buy box seller right there, they're at $12, so you probably just go ahead and match them at $12, right? The other thing you want to think about is if the buy box winner equals min price, I'm just going to use the minimum price here. Kind of accomplishes the same thing as that up there. If there are buy box winners above your max price, typically I'll just set it to max price, and then same thing for min price. Whenever I'm setting my minimum and maximum price, that's a process that I do manually for every listing, and it's just kind of jumping in, looking at the Keepa chart, seeing what the highest price that the item is sold for consistently, and then figuring out the lowest price that I'm happy with the profit on compared to where it's sold historically. So that's going to vary a lot. Some items might be 25%, some items you might be setting your minimum at 50%. Really just kind of depends on the item. So very case by case for me, and then the rules are going to kind of follow that. So if it goes above or below, I don't really want it to go outside the range that I set unless I can go and kind of take a manual look at it. Another thing you want to think about here is that if the buy box gets suppressed, you can have it default to do different things here. That's where the different repricing rule we'll go ahead and look at here in a second comes into play. So I actually have a different repricing rule for when there's no buy box versus when there is a buy box, just because listings on Amazon behave way differently. So personally, I do not reprice them. And then if I ever notice that we have a rule where it's based on buy box and the listing lost a buy box, I'll just go ahead and flip the switch, change it over to that other repricing rule there. If you're the only seller, typically I want to use that max price. That's why a lot of sellers will tell you just to punch in, $9.99 is your max price, something crazy. I typically go in and set them genuinely. So maybe the item typically sells for like $150, but one time, couple times it sold for $200. I'll go in there and set my max at $200. It proved to me that someone wanted to pay it, but it's going to be a little bit less common. But I always want to be kind of in there. I want to be at that high price if I can possibly make that kind of money on an item. Buy box winners are excluded by your settings. I'm just going to not reprice. I don't want anything funky to go on there. And then there's also a price change safety net with this repricer here. So if you're kind of hesitant to use a repricer, you're worried about it lowering your prices too fast, something like that, you can go in here and say, hey, never lower my price by more than 10%, or never lower my price by more than 5%, something like that, right? Personally, I have these rules all set up. I think if you guys use the same rule set, you'll probably be fine. But if you want to be extra safe while you learn how to use a repricer, you can go ahead and do something like that. And then these last two options down here, you can go ahead and play around with if you want to get fancier with it. I have used these advanced settings before. So for example, like FBA versus Amazon, sometimes I'll throw this on a listing where, include it. And then if the buy box winner is Amazon, basically you can go ahead and undercut them by a few percent. Unlike the normal buy box rotation with other third-party sellers, typically a lot of times the only way to get buy box from Amazon is going to be to undercut them, but always pay attention to the Keepa on that listing. Make sure that Amazon is not sharing sales at the same price as Amazon is. And if they're not, then you can go in here and kind of set up something like that. And that would be a very case-by-case thing for me. And a lot of times I'll catch some of this when I'm just going in and manually repricing. Really, I just want to have this set up to take care of a lot of the grunt work myself, and then I can go in and kind of make those more, high-level decisions myself. So once we go ahead and get the buy box, now we want to decide what it does when you stay in the buy box. So you can go ahead and set this to, lower your price or raise your price however much you want when you win the buy box. Basically meaning, whenever you're actively eligible to be making sales, what do you want it to do? And so most of the time I'll leave this on kind of just matching that buy box price like we did kind of in that previous example there. But something else you might want to think about is, let's say you're dealing with a penny undercutter on one of your listings. All you have to do in that case is to go in here and say, raise my price within 1 penny. And so every time their repricer tries to undercut you by a penny, you're going to raise the price by a penny. And so it's going to be kind of, at net zero there. So that's one way to avoid getting your listings ruined by people who have their repricer set up wrong, is just kind of go in there and match their price plus 1 penny, and you'll often still be making just as many sales as you were before. And the other thing you want to think about is if those adjusted prices are above max. We talked about that before. Make sure it's just at your max price. It's something kind of reasonable you set there. And then again, just kind of setting the competitors we really want to worry about with the buy box there. So the next thing you want to think about here, this is super important as well, is raising your prices at night. So in this example here, every night from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., we raise our prices on pretty much all items by 10%. And the reason for that is, especially on listings with low competition, if you only have, 1, 2 other sellers and their repricer is just set to match your buy box price, if you raise your price by 10%, a lot of times their repricer is going to follow you up by 10%. And in that case, you'd be be more profitable, and you'd have more runway if you do want to get aggressive and start undercutting. Maybe you found a strategy to make sales that way. You'd have a little bit more runway to work with in an example like that. And so unless your Amazon store is absolutely crushing it in the middle of the night at 2 a.m., make sure you're raising your prices. This is the world if all of us raise our price in the middle of the night. And so that's basically going to do it for this repricing rule here. Just kind of simple rule-based rule here. We can go ahead and basically just match the buy box if there's another seller with the buy box. So I want to go ahead and quickly look through a couple of these other repricing rules as well. So this is the repricing rule we use when there is an FBA offer, but there's no buy box on the listing. So most of it's the same. Let me just go ahead and point out these specifically different things. So instead of competing with the buy box, if there's no buy box, obviously it's going to have a hard time finding it. And so we will choose lowest price on this listing, because as an Amazon customer, you're not just clicking that add to cart button, you're manually picking the seller that you want to purchase from. And so if you are the cheapest FBA offer, you're going to make a vast majority of the sales, especially if you have good feedback and all that kind of stuff. So set it to lowest price, same competitors still in this case. All this is still going to be pretty much the same exact thing going on here. I do add this caveat to no buy box listings, just in case we're dealing with, a merchant fulfilled seller of any kind, but we're already excluding merchant fulfilled sellers. So that'd be fairly unlikely, I would say. Again, you're just going to be matching that competitor's price. Don't undercut them by a penny or do anything like that. Everything else here is pretty much the same as well. This is really set up for you to get the buy box. So if you happen to find the buy box in a buy box suppressed listing, you kind of just want it to do the exact same thing as we were looking at before. So just match the price of the other buy box sellers if that listing did end up finding one. And then again, make sure you're raising your price by 10% in the middle of the night, 5%, whatever you want to do, just on your listings. Make sure you're kind of raising that price. It's going to give you a lot more runway on your listings kind of the next day. And that's really it. That's the main difference there, is that first setting between these listings. And so if you ever go through BQool and you start noticing that some listings lost their buy box, just go ahead and switch that repricing rule, because the way that this one is set up, it's going to just kind of leave it alone if it loses the buy box. You don't want this listing to be tanking a bunch of your best products. And then, this rule over here is going to kind of catch a lot of those buy box suppressed listings or anything that you happen to have bought intentionally with no buy box. And just real quickly as well, I want to go ahead and talk about what you should set up if your item is a merchant fulfilled offer. Obviously, we've only been talking about FBA so far. I went ahead and just kind of looked at that repricing rule we used for FBA with a buy box listing. The main things I would suggest you change here is just to kind of select FBM and then non-featured FBM, and then just go ahead and check this exclude sellers with handling time on. That's basically just going to make sure that you're not competing with sellers who are selling it way slower than you. They're shipping it super slow, so you don't really want to be competing with them. They're not going to be getting nearly as many sales as you might. So a lot of times I'll go ahead and exclude those sellers with super slow handling time. But beyond that, that repricing rule is going to be pretty much the same as the FBA with a buy box or FBA with no buy box, and just kind of tweak your settings accordingly. So if you are on that $25 a month plan, those are going to be the options that you have. You can use those rule-based rules here. If you want to go ahead and upgrade your BQool subscription, that's going to give you access to some more powerful repricing rule sets, and we use these repricing rule sets as well. So for those of you guys who are maybe a little bit more advanced sellers, I want to go ahead and talk about that. Or if you're still a beginner and want to know maybe what's possible with the more advanced repricer, let's just go ahead and talk about it here. So basically what you unlock with the higher tier subscriptions of BQool is AI repricing. And so this is the rule set that I use for a lot of kind of my products just by default. It's just this AI equalizer rule here. This is basically just BQool's kind of proprietary tech, so to say, that goes in and decides what your prices should be based on kind of a balance between sales and profit here. So I personally use AI equalizer on a lot of things. There's also several other options here, as you can tell, obviously. You got equalizer, profit booster, maximizer, sales booster, and then sales maximizer as well. You can kind of see that we mostly use AI equalizer on a lot of listings there. We have a different rule that we use as well. That's kind of some of our older listings on the equalizer set here. What I will say, if you guys do use the AI rules here, is that AI equalizer is pretty good. I've had decent success with it. Profit booster is good in cases where you may be running out of stock on something and you want to squeeze every last little bit of profit out of it. You're not going to be able to restock it. Maybe it was a clearance item or that coupon's gone, anything like that. And that's a lot of the cases where I end up using profit booster. Profit maximizer, I haven't used a ton before. I've found that it kind of raises your prices a lot, which, it should reprice aggressively to maximize profit. It was very, very slow in selling product from my experience. You could definitely play around with it, maybe have better experience than me. Sales booster is one that some people will suggest to use out of the gate. I think that's a very bad idea, because I have noticed that sales booster kind of gets a little bit over aggressive on some listings in terms of how much it lowers the price. So basically what I use the sales booster listing for is if I ever ended up with too much in stock, or I bought a bunch of it on purpose and I really want to make sure we sell through it, I will use the sales booster. I wouldn't recommend for a lot of the products you didn't buy too much of, or especially if you're trying to squeeze profit out of, I would not recommend to put on sales booster. And then sales maximizer, you can see we've used very few times there. And that's just if you, by all means, maybe you got a threatening letter, you want to sell out as soon as possible, something like that would be kind of the rare cases where I would use AI sales maximizer on a different product. And so within the different AI rules, there's also conditional repricing rules. And I think these are even more fun than, playing around with just the flat out AI rules. Let me kind of show you an example of one of those. So this is a rule set that I kind of threw together for aging inventory. So if you want to, you're starting to notice that your products are, you're getting 60, 90, even 120 days old before you're kind of noticing and you need to go in and start changing prices. This rule set will go in and basically, hey, if your inventory is, X days old, and you can also add conditional statements here. So like, for example, if it's, over 181 days old and it hasn't sold in the last week, then go ahead and change my rule over here to sales maximizer, change my minimum price down to an ROI at negative 50%. Hopefully you never ever have a product that you're stuck with for 6 months. In that case, I'd probably want to be very, very aggressive with it. And then as you get down, you might want to be a little bit more lenient with it. So if it's only 0 to 30 days old, don't change my price, keep it on equalizer. 31 to 60 days old, keep it on equalizer. And then maybe once you start thinking about, the product's getting a little bit older, so it's 60 days old at this point, that's over 2 months at this point, right? And it hasn't been selling in the last week, that tells me it's a pretty stagnant product. I might go ahead and, like I was saying earlier, it's time to start making some sales happen. Let me throw on sales booster. Let me set my repricer down to 5% ROI, where maybe I'm paying for the box and the label and the poly bag I put it in, just trying to get my product cost back out of it. And really, this is going to be up to you in terms of how aggressive or conservative you want to be with a repricing rule set like this. So you can see, once it gets to 90 days, just get it out. I'll lose a little bit of money, negative 50% at 6 months. And a lot of times you'll be manually going through and repricing, paying attention to, what happened to that item that I had 5 units of and it's still there. So a lot of times you'll catch that kind of stuff manually. I just set this repricing rule set up fairly conservatively, just in an effort to make sure that we're not letting anything slip through or sit on the account way too long. You can't get to repricing for a week or two. You don't want that item that is 60 days old to sit around for too much longer. And so this will kind of go in there and automatically change your minimum price and the different rule based on different use cases. And there's also several different kind of conditional statements there. You can do it off of sales velocity, tons of other options for you guys to go ahead and check out if you want to just go ahead and poke around on that. So I just want to show you a quick example of those strategies kind of in action here. I'll also talk a little bit how to set those minimum and maximum prices. So I went ahead and just pulled up an example product here. Basically, every time I'm looking at a product, I manually set the minimum and max myself. I'll probably start having a virtual assistant look into it as well. I'm still doing a lot of that work myself right now though. And so let me just kind of show you my kind of thought process behind these different items. So let's just, hypothetically here, let's say you paid, let's call it $650 just for, the sake of numbers here. If you paid $650 for this item, I would go in here and basically figure out what is a low price that is consistent that I'm pretty happy with selling at. So I can see back here it sold for $14.20. So in this case, if I go ahead and punch that in, I'm maybe not quite as happy with the profit, $2.30, still making 35% ROI, but I'm kind of more all over these $15 sales and something like that, right? So $15.50 is decent profit, really good ROI. And so on a listing like this, I'd probably go in here and maybe just zoom in a little bit, kind of draw that line right underneath this right here. So you can see it was, $15, $15.90, all the way up to like $16 even. And so something like this, I'd probably go in here and set my min at like $15. I don't want to, make these sales at $14.20 here for, a week or two. Price went right back up. And then I can just kind of go ahead and make those higher price sales. And so that's one of the major reasons why you want to use a repricer as well. It'll kind of keep you in the range of profit, let other people take the sales where it's going to be a little bit less profitable, wait for it to bounce back up. And in this case, it looks like it did. We'd be back to profitability here if we had paid, $650 for this item here. And so basically what that would look like within BQool, we can go ahead and punch in here. I would just go ahead and set my repricer minimum at 15 like it already is. And then I guess it's set to 35 right now. So I guess what I want to do here is figure out, the highest price that it's kind of more consistently sold for. So back here, I see, $32. I see, $29. Sales rank still dipping. That green line still showing me sales there. But yeah, it still looks like it's selling. So I don't mind 35 here. I might set it at like 30, something like that. Something that is, proven to me that the item was actually selling. And then right here, we can see that this product does have a buy box. So it's got the add to cart button. And so I would use that repricing rule that is based on when the product does have a buy box instead of the rule where there's no buy box. So if you guys have not already activated that trial of BQool, please feel free to do so through my link down below. That helps me out for kind of educating you on how to use the tool. No extra cost to you and you get that free trial. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and got a ton of value out of it. If you did, please feel free to also hit that subscribe button down below. That helps me out for adding some value to your Amazon business. If you guys have any questions, comments, anything like that about using BQool, feel free to drop that down below. Always happy to help you guys out with that. But I really appreciate you guys watching this video and I will see you next time.